So welcome everybody who just joined. Um, I already asked the others to send me a little message in the chat and tell me where you're from or where you are right now and what time it is. I'm interested in that. I'm in Germany and it's 10 o'clock in the morning where I am. We're just still waiting, connecting some dots. Um, and we will start shortly. So let's see. Istanbul. Welcome to the session. So we have Singapore, Istanbul, and Germany so far. So let's see. Sydney and 6. So that must be 6 p.m. then. Is that correct? I think so. Yes. Thank you for verifying. Lovely. Great. So let's get started. I'm excited to be here with people from around the world for the session. Let's see. I hope you can see my screen. What's happening here? For the session Connecting Dots. So please feel free to send me messages at any time if something is not working or you don't understand me. Yeah, or if you have something to add, right? So we will talk about system thinking today. And I called the session Connecting Dots, and we will get to that a little later. Why? And but first of all, you already told me a little bit about yourselves, well, where you're from and what time it is. So really quickly, I'm Gesa Beecken, Miss Beacon or Miss Gesa, and I'm from Germany. As I already told you, it's 10 o'clock in the morning here. And I love playing sports. That's a big passion of mine, especially basketball. I love nature. So I love going on hikes or going to the beach with my family and spending time with my family in general. So I thought it's kind of nice if you know a little bit about me as we will be spending the next hour together. Good. All right, let's dive right into it. We'll talk about connecting dots, about system thinking. But before we can really get into system thinking, we first need to clarify what a system is, right? So another question we will be talking about is why do relationships matter? And what are living systems? And most importantly, we will also focus on what has all of that to do with me, well, with you, right? So that's what we will be doing today, and I'm excited to get started with you. All right, so what is it all about? So what are systems? Yeah, do you have any ideas? Have any ideas about systems? How would you define a system? You can write in the chat if you have an idea already. I'm sure you have, some things that come to mind. So how would you say that? Let's see. Looking into the chat real quick. Related things. I love it. Yeah, good definition. Our body is a system. That's an example already. Perfect. Great. Yeah, so somehow things are related, and an example could be a body. Yes, well done. So to say it or a short answer to us is really parts working together, right? Yeah, so it is related in some way. So, but we want to get more specific. So let's look at an example. Oops, let's see. So this is a system, a bike. A bike is a system. It's related. Parts are working together. And here are some examples of bikes. So I want you to have a little look and maybe choose one. Which one would you choose? What would be your favorite to try out? Anybody? Oh, I will choose one. Let's see. Yes, you will choose a bike. Um, I don't think I can send it to you, but for the session, we choose a bike. So let's see. The orange one. Yeah, I wish I could send it. I wish I could have it as well. The orange one on the right side, that's a pretty one. So let's see. Oops, I share it again. I will choose the blue one for us though. I hope that's okay with you as well. So I'll choose the blue one. Here we go, here it is. So this is a system, right? Parts are working together, yeah, and it has a function, yeah? So it works together and needs all the parts. But does it need all the parts? So what would happen if I take something away? Is it still a bike? What do you think? Is it still a bike? The system still working? Any ideas? I love if you have some answers in the chat. Let's see. Yeah, the seat is missing. Yes, you saw that. So the seat is missing. Is it still a bike? Well, let's go a little further. Let's see who finds what's missing. It's still a bike. Okay, so it's still a bike, but now more is missing. Is it still a bike? I'll push it a little bit further. Let's see, what did I take away? Who can see it because it's a smaller part? It's a useless bike, okay. The handle is gone, that's correct. The handle, and something else is missing as well. What else is gone? Showed you the picture before again. Oops. Two more things are gone. Did somebody find them? I did a good job taking them away if you can't find them. So I took the lamp away and the pedal, right? Okay, good. So sometimes it stops working. Parts that are unnecessary are not needed. It is very, very useless. Like, okay, good. So some things, nice job, Araf. So Aha. So can't change direction, but it's still a system. That's a good point as well. So some parts are maybe more needed than others, right? For the system to still move, right? So is a bike still a bike if it doesn't have a lamp? Probably yes, right? So, but what about the handle? That's a problem, isn't it? Yeah. So let's see. What do I have? Yes, perfect. So some things are more important maybe in the system than others, right? But it does change, right? A system can change and we have to evaluate still if it's still working, right? If it's still working, the system. Yeah. So this is supposed to be rusty. So the bike is rusty. It's still a bike, right? A rusty bike is still a bike. However, what happens if it breaks? Is it still a bike? If I have a bike and it gets rusty, it breaks in half, is it still a bike? What do you think? No. Then not anymore, Araf? Okay. Okay, it's not really a bike anymore. It's a unicycle. We suddenly have two unicycles. Yeah, that's a good point. So explain to me again, okay? So I'm stretching this a little bit to bring it home, all right? Explain to me again. So if I have a bike and I cut it in half, do I have two bikes? You already said a lot of good things to that. So let's see. So you already said things that the parts have to work together in a certain way, right? For it to be a complete system. Let's see. What else do we have? Not at all. Okay, good. So we have the two unicycles, which I really like the idea as well. Not really working unicycles though, right? Um, and so each part has, so if it doesn't have all the parts, it's not really a system anymore, right? It's not really a working system anymore. And with some parts, it's kind of debatable, right? With a lamp, yeah, something like that, or with a saddle, and you can still ride it, yeah. Um, but if it's not connected in the right way, it's not really a system anymore. Good. All right. But this was kind of a silly example for the system, but we will get more serious now, okay? You know a lot about systems already, so I'm very impressed. That's perfect. So important is that it's all interconnected. Let's see. Where do I have my slide? Here we go. So let's look at a big example now, all right? Our planet, okay? So let's see. I'll just add somebody real quick. So we'll be looking at our planet now, and that's a different deal than a bike, right? So unlike the mechanical example we just had with a bike, living systems do change, right? And that's normal and that's fine. But what influences these changes? And that's what I want to talk about with you, okay? So we as humans add a lot of things to the systems and take a lot of things away from the system. So I give you some examples, right? So you see the planet here. And for example, we are driving a lot of cars and adding a lot of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, right? To our system. And that's a cause of global warming. So if you have other ideas, let me just add somebody real quick. If you have other ideas, right, please add them into the chat. Yeah, I will show you some of the things I came up with, but we have a little brainstorming session with that as well. Yeah, so if you have already ideas, please feel free to add them to the chat. So Some things that we are taking away, for example, are fish, right? Here you see a shark, but we are overfishing a lot of the oceans. And that causes a lot of impact on marine life in general. Yeah. So we will talk a little bit more about this later, how it is connected. Another thing I came up with is toxins, right? As humans, we add toxins to landfills or oceans, which don't belong there. They don't belong into the normal system, into the natural system. We also take away trees and forests. So we change system in that way. And what I want to do with you today, yeah, I also added some garbage here, showing that we add a lot of garbage to landfills or the oceans. And I want to think with you in terms of, okay, so it's not necessarily just a single thing that changes, but it's the system. Yeah. So what does all of this do to the system as a whole? Okay. So that's where we are going. That it's all connected. I do want to see if you had some examples. Not yet. Maybe you have some. I would love to see your examples. So if you have some ideas, how else we change the system, what do we add or take away from the planet? If we look at the planet as a system right now, please add them to the chat. So we'll take a closer look at a living system to bring it home more. Okay, this is a very big example, but I wanted to just start thinking about it. But we'll bring it home and get more specific. Okay, so let's see. Do I have some examples? Do you have some ideas? Anybody? Let's see. Oh, okay. Good. So, Enash, oh, I'm not sure if I pronounce your name right. I'm sorry if I don't. Well, she talks about taking away birds, or the birds are gonna be away if there are no trees, right? So you're already at the next step, and that's exactly where I want to go with you. So well done, well done. So the things that we do have other effects as well, right? It's not just the one thing that we do that we take away or add, but these, as it is interconnected and a system that bring other changes with them. Yeah. So if you have another idea, please feel free to share and write it into the chat. So, but I have a more specific example for you as well. And maybe it gets easier to talk about it then. So I want to share, I'll give you another 30 seconds to maybe think about an example before I move on. I don't want to just rush through it, right? I want you to think about it a little bit. And I do want to hear your voices and ideas. And I think it's especially interesting because we come from all different parts of the world. And, you know, we have different habits and different things we can maybe do or change to positively influence the systems around us. So I'm interested in your voices in that as well. So let's see. I have something else. That's okay. I'll give you a more specific example and maybe then more ideas come to your mind. Okay? So I want to share with you, let's see. I want to share with you a story from Yellowstone Park. Yellowstone Park is in the United States. Do I have anybody who has been there maybe? I mean, that would be a big coincidence, right? Especially because we don't live close to it. Well, everybody who told me where they're from or where they live right now or where they are right now is not close to it. So that would be a big coincidence. So I want to share a story from Yellowstone Park with you. And this is a real story. And I think it's super interesting and a great example of living systems. So that's why I chose it. And it's been told before, so I'm using some material and ideas from others here, but I prepared. Well, first of all, let's look at where it is. So I'm not sure if you know where Yellowstone Park is. I just said the United States. This is not Yellowstone. This is Hamburg. This is where I am right now, and we will move all the way over to the United States, and there is the Yellowstone Park. Okay, so this is where the story happened. Yeah, and it's a true story. Oops. It's a true story, and I prepared a little video for you. I thought it's easier to follow the story. So I have some pictures for you, and I already narrated it. So I hope you can hear it well. If you have problems understanding it, please let me know. Okay, so I'll try to fix it then. So here we go. I want to tell you a story that took place in Yellowstone Park and began more than 100 years ago. This is based on the story Bringing Back the Wolves by Linda Booth Sweeney. I show you some pictures with my story. So this is Yellowstone. Not really, but for the story. Many animals and plants lived in harmony in that beautiful area. Back then, people were scared of wolves and they wanted to kill all of them. In 1926, the last wolf in Yellowstone was killed. Once the wolves were gone, mysterious changes began to happen in the park. The willow and aspen trees began to die. The birds that nested in the park left to find new places to live. More and more wildlife disappeared. But how is the wolf connected to a tree? Let's focus on wolves, moose, elk, and willow trees to find the answer. When the wolves were not around anymore, moose and elk became less cautious. They roamed through the riverbeds, munching on willow and aspen trees. The moose and elk ate too much. After the leaves were gone, they even ate the sprouts coming out of the ground. They ate up all their food. In fact, they ate up everything for the next year too. So, park rangers and wildlife biologists realized that wolves had been important to the park. The moose and the elk had stayed out of the riverbeds because the wolves had made them cautious. So, in 1995, they decided that the first wolves had to be released into the park again. Once they were roaming the park again, the moose moved higher into the mountains and away from the open areas. The willow trees could grow taller again, and now songbirds return to the park. In the trees, the birds can hide, find insects to eat, and raise their young. The tall trees also act like big beach umbrellas over the river, and fish that need cold stream water, shaded by trees, could survive. With the trees, beavers also came back. Beavers need trees. They eat the leaves and bark, and they use the trees to build dams. Beaver dams are important for other animals. For example, ducks live in the slow-moving water behind the dams. So, after wolves kill a moose or an elk, they don't guard or hide their prey. The leftovers are food for foxes, eagles, ravens, or other small birds. So today we know that wolves play an important role and that many other things depend on their survival. I want Okay, so I would love for you to share your thoughts in the chat. What happened? What happened? Hmm? Do you have any ideas? What happened? In Yellowstone Park, what did you understand from the story? Okay, great. So the huge population of deers ate up all the plants and hence no birds. Great, because they lost their the space to breed, to hide, to find insects, right? Good. What else? What else stood out to you?
I want to tell you a story that
What
took
happened?
place in Yellowstone.
I stopped it again. What else stood out to you? Anything? Do you think it was easy to anticipate that could happen? The people did not know, right? I mean, we know now more than we did 100 years ago there. It's kind of around three corners, right? So if the wolves disappear, that something happens to the trees, that something happens to a lot of other species. So let's see. Admitting some more people real quick. Let's see, I have some more. Oh, okay. The ecosystem went wrong. The system. Okay. So something went wrong within the system, for sure. Each part in the system has an important role in the system, a unique role. I love it. Great. A unique role, an important role. And sometimes it's difficult to anticipate, right? So important to note is welcome to everybody who just joined. So please dive right into it and feel free to write comments into the chat. Yeah, I'm sometimes asking some questions, so I love your input. Great. So for sure, it's the relationship is super important. And one of you just pointed out the interconnectedness, right? It's all connected. And that's so important to note. And with living systems, it's normal that they change over time, right? But sometimes, the interconnectedness is quite hidden, I'd say, right? So sometimes it's not so obvious what things will happen if we take away something out of a system or add something. So, and I thought that was a great example that really shows that one thing can influence so many things, right? And the next step, and the next step, and the next step. So, um, and when we think about that as a the living system there, and we as humans, we thought, okay, we don't like wolves, right? We are scared of them, and they eat our cattle. We'll take away all the wolves. Um, will take away all the wolves. Um, and we did not anticipate all the next step happening. And with this specific example, we do know more about it at this point, but there are a lot of things we can't really anticipate in the planet with our living system. So we got to be cautious if we add or take something away, right? Um, so I'd love to go back to the planet with you, but bring it home more. So you are part of the system. I am too. We are all part of the system. So me anywhere in the world, you anywhere in the world, we are part of our system. So how do we influence it? Right? And what kind of influence do we want to be? What do we want to have? Okay, so let's look at that real quick. I give you some examples again, yeah, but I would love for you to just ponder on this question first. Okay, so what are some things, if we think about, we want to, and I assume this at this point, yeah, but I think we all want to positively influence our system, the system that we are part of. So, do you have any ideas, like what can we do to keep the environment clean, yeah, green, yeah? What can we do to prevent climate change? Yeah, what are some things that we can do? And it doesn't have to be huge, right? But in our everyday life, what are things that we can contribute to our system, to positively contribute? Think about it for a minute. And I think we'll have different answers in different parts of the world, and I love that about this format. Um, and I will share some of my examples in a moment, but I do want to hear from you as well. So I'll give you another minute. Maybe I give you an example, because sometimes the question seems so big, so it's kind of difficult to come up with an example. So I'll show you an example, and then I'll see if you can come up with some examples yourself, okay? So we as part of the system, here's our world again. Oh, I have a contribution, so I'll look at that first. Yeah, planting more plants, walking more instead of cars. Great, I love it. Great examples, yeah? So instead of taking the car, walking, or maybe taking the bike, as long as it's still functioning, right? And if you have one, right? So let's see, what else do we have? Less waste, great example, okay, to create less waste, yeah? And in some countries, we produce a lot of more waste than in others. We in Europe, for sure, create a lot of waste. Recycling, if you have that in your area, if you have the possibility to recycle, for sure, that would be the next best step, right? If you can't reduce the waste, or if you can reduce or reuse something, you can maybe at least recycle it. Good job, yeah. So you have great ideas already. Yeah. So let's see if you have some more. I showed you some of mine as well in the meantime, but please feel free to still add your ideas into the chat. Okay. So as part of the system, we can, for example, and somebody already said that, try to produce less waste, right? Buy things that have less packaging, maybe, or no packaging at all, right? If we have the option. Let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, reuse, recycle, reduce. Yeah, I'd say reduce. I would probably say that at the beginning, right? So to even have less of something would be the best thing, and then to reuse it, the next best thing. And if we can't do that, recycle it. Yeah, but perfect. The 3 R's. Perfect. Yes. So we could maybe save some water. So for some people, oops, am I sharing? Here we go. We could use less water. For example, if we brush our teeth, we can stop the water, the running water. I'm sure a lot of you do that already. Or maybe take shorter showers. And in some parts of the world, people are better with saving water than in others, right? So here in Europe, for sure, we are using a lot of water, and we have to work on that. So another thing that came to mind for me was to buy regional food if we can, right? So instead of having fruits that are out of season, ship through, from one continent to the other, maybe try to buy more local food or food that is in season. Yeah. Another thing we can work on is save energy, and sometimes it's as easy as turning off the lights when we leave the room. But maybe you have some other ideas, that can become a habit and that are contributing positively to our system. Yeah. Eating less meat, that's especially in some parts of the world, we eat a lot of meat, and that takes a lot of energy, right? To have so much meat available. And again, these things are, more an issue in some parts of the world than in others. So I'm super interested in hearing also from you what comes up for you in your area. Yeah. So, but eating less meat, maybe once or twice a week instead of every day. I know a lot of people don't do that, but some do. Yeah. Would be much better for our environment. Yeah. And maybe another thing we could look for, and that is often sometimes, or that's often something your parents have more control over, but where is the energy coming from that we are using, right? So maybe there is a chance to use reusable, renewable energy in your area, and maybe, and somebody already said that, don't even use fossil fuel, instead of driving a car, walk or ride a bike. So you're saving energy in that way as well. Yeah. So let's see. I think I have another contribution. Paperless world to save trees. Good idea. Yeah. So think twice if you use a paper or if you print something out. To save the trees, use less paper. Great point. Yeah, you contributed there. Oh, carpools, I didn't see that earlier on. Great. Carpools, no using one-time plastic items. Great. Thank you for adding that, Anita. Yeah. Perfect. So maybe you have, not everyone has the chance to use their bike or a train or a walk to work or to school, but maybe you can carpool. That's a good idea to save energy as well, and no using one-time plastic items. I think around the world we can really work on that one. So good one, great idea. So let's see, please feel free to add more. Whoops, where am I? To add more, if you have more. These were my examples. And as I said before, things that we can change will really depend also on where we live and our life circumstances. But I'm sure we can all make some positive impact. Yeah. So I would like to know about something that you could work on. Yeah, you had already great ideas, and I'm sure from everything that you wrote, I'm sure a lot of you already do a lot of good things or a lot of positive things for our system, and are really cautious about some things. But what is something that you could work on this week? Let's say this week. One thing that you could change, or maybe try to reduce, or to add, that you change habits. So I would love for you to think about personally, make it personal now. What is something that you could do in your life? And I give you a little time for that because I'm really interested in, well, in one, for you to have some time to really make it meaningful, to make it something you actually can try, yeah, you're able to do in your life, and that you stand behind, that you think that is worth your effort and time. Yeah. So I'll give you a minute to think about it. And I would love from all of you to get a little feedback on what that could be. Yeah. So you can take some of the things we just talked about, or maybe you have a new idea. Maybe it's something you had on your mind for a while and you haven't really gotten to really implement it into your daily life, into your daily routine. So maybe it's time now. So let's see. I'll give you a minute for this one. Mm-hmm. Great. So Anita shared that she will try to buy the local produce to do her bit, though not everything is available. Yes, that's true, Anita. And that's something I work on as well. And sometimes, you know, I would love to have that fruit in the middle of the winter. And, sometimes it's just not available if you want to have it buy locally, right? So it's always, a question. And I think it's not black and white, but it's, we doing our steps to make better choices. So that's a good idea that you have there. Ah, great. I will try to buy less clothes generally. Yeah, that's a good point that you make, Taman. I'm not sure if I pronounce your name correctly, but that's something a lot of us can work on. I think a lot of people can work on, because you know clothes. There's so much with it. I'm sure you have heard about a lot of things that clothes, if it's not produced ethically or so, that it has a lot of negative impacts, not just on the environment, but also on people, right? So that's a good goal, I think. Mm. Ban plastic use at home. Okay, you go for it. I like it. Yeah. So it is difficult to not use plastic at all, I'd say, right? But I agree that we should have as little as possible. And I know people who don't use plastic at all. They've already made all their steps, and I'm working on it for sure as well. Yeah. So I carry a bottle of water when I go out so that I do not buy a bottle, which again is one-time use plastic. Perfect. Yeah, that's a great point as well. A lot of us have the possibility to have water bottles and refill them somewhere with water. And that is something that is not available in all countries, right? And in some countries they don't, they can maybe drink the tap water, right? So, but if you can, that's a great way of saving garbage, right? Of reducing your garbage. Perfect. Ah, okay. Instead of the plastic bags, you use cotton bags. Perfect. Yeah, that's a good easy switch as well, right? So we can go shopping with a reusable bag instead of using plastic bags. Yeah, great. Do I have some more ideas? Do I have some more ideas? Let's see. you already, oops, welcome. There's one more person just joined. Welcome. So we are just talking about some ideas that we have to positively influence our environment, right? Some changes that we can do, and a lot of people already had great ideas and great examples, from using less plastic, buying less clothes, to reusable water bottles, and using bags, recycling or reducing and reusing and recycling if possible. So great, well done. So let's, oops, we still have people joining, even though we're pretty close to finishing up, but welcome if you're just joining. So well done, everybody. I love your ideas, and that you had that you contributed so well. Yeah, so that makes things so much easier if you have people who you can interact with and who have great ideas. So lovely. So the positive impact. Oops. You already had so many good ideas, right? So here are mine that I just added into my house. So everybody obviously has to see their circumstances, right? This is not really my house, by the way. I wish, right? It's pretty nice, but just to bring it home, yeah. So the changes that you make, that will be individual, and everybody is doing their steps to positively influence the system. Yeah, I think it's important to remember that we sometimes don't really anticipate, or it's sometimes hard to anticipate the influences that changes can have. And we saw that in the Yellowstone video, the impact that the missing wolves can have on so many other species. Yeah. And the same is true with our planet and the choices that we make, right? That we are contributing to the system. And positive choices can have such, just as an impact. So, sometimes we think about the things we can do, and it seems so small, right? But small changes by a lot of people can make a huge impact. Yeah. So we really can't forget that. Yeah. So, oops, I didn't even show you my house. There is my house. My house that is not my house. I'm sorry. I talked to you and I think you didn't even see it at that point. Yeah. So I just want to encourage you really to do your steps and to really always think about, okay, these choices I make, I'm contributing to the system. I'm positively contributing to the system. Yeah. And maybe try one thing at a time, right? So it shouldn't be overwhelming, but it can be one thing at a time, and doing your steps with it. Yeah. So I'm slowly coming to an end. Do you have any questions at this point, or any comments, any wonders? We'll wait for another 30 seconds or so to give you some time. If you have something that's still really working in you with it, or something that came up for you. Okay. So I made one last slide, coming back to the connecting dots, and really just, I hope that you had some fun in our lesson today, that you enjoyed it a bit, maybe took some new ideas from it, and some motivation to do some steps to change some things and contribute positively to our system, because it's all connected, and give our planet some love.